tax time, baby. And I'm excited to share with you what I do with taxes, what I've done with taxes. I'm not a tax expert. I am not somebody you should listen to for tax advice. I am a guy who's probably doing something wrong, but I'm also just a walking ad for TurboTax, and I follow them, and they say it's low risk, and my tax return got accepted this year. After last year, I made $100,000. Well, not made, but I sold $100,000 of trading cards, and I am going to talk to you about what that was like filing taxes and what to watch out for and what I'm going to watch out for this year, because this year is going to be very different than last year. But first off, thanks for watching. My name's Nick. I run a company called Capital Catalyst where me, myself, and I sell trading cards and other magic products. And yeah, subscribe. We're trying to get to 150 subscribers. Then I want to start doing some cool things like live streams and giveaways and whatever. So anyways, thanks for being here. So accounting, this is the big thing. In my mind, this is how it works. And I'm pretty sure legally this is how it works. You need to decide for each given year if you're planning on making any money. And by that, what I mean is, are you going to buy more than you sell, or are you going to sell more than you buy? And of course, you think like, well, of course, I want to sell more than I buy. That's the only way you make money. And that's true. But you can be like me, where last year, I bought more than I sold. The products on the shelves behind me, there's not that many of them, but there's a few collector boxes out there and a bunch of books for my kids. Those collector boxes were bought last year, as well as a bunch of other magic product. I spent more money than I made last year. And so when I filled out taxes, what that really was for me was demonstrate and show that you spent more money than you made. There's a couple of things I do to make this easy for me, and TurboTax makes it easy. I pay for the TurboTax. I think it was like $100 for whatever pro-ish version. There's all these upsells. You don't need to do any of those upsells. Well, I don't think you do. Anyways, so the TurboTax makes it easy because I was able to connect a business credit card. And the reason I'm able to have a business credit card is because I have an LLC. I would recommend getting an LLC. I think getting an LLC, it's not that expensive. You can pay somebody a few $100 and they will get you set up, but don't pay people yearly for the like financial filing compliance thing. I live in Virginia, and it's really easy to do the yearly upkeep. And so these companies try to scare you and say like, oh, you know, to be compliant, you got to like pay these fees and you got to make sure you have an address and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, look, you have an address. You can log on once a year and pay the $50 or whatever it is. So you don't need these companies to represent you long term, but maybe setting up, you also don't need them to file. But I did. I paid like LegalZoom, or no, it wasn't LegalZoom. Wow. What a bad non-paid sponsor I am that I can't remember the company I used. It's Mark Cuban's company. Anyways, I paid them. They set up my LLC. I used their service. Then they sent me an email that they're going to raise the prices. So I canceled. And then I realized that it was silly that I was paying them anyway, because it's so easy to remain compliant. As far as I understand, I'm not a legal expert, but nothing's gone wrong yet. So anyways, get an LLC. LLC is really nice. You feel cool. Your self-esteem goes out through the window. Your hair starts to grow better. At least that was what I told. Still working on that one. But the thing I've really enjoyed is, and the thing that's really nice for accounting purposes, is the ability to make a business bank account and take out business credit cards. And you don't actually technically need an LLC to do business credit cards, but you do for the business bank account. And that's all valuable and important because then you can keep your business money separate from your family money or from your money. And that's especially helpful when you're filing taxes, because TurboTax allows you to connect your credit cards. And I have a credit card. Let me show you it. Haha, just kidding. I have a business credit card. It's an Amex. I guess I do have a Visa, because not all things can be bought with Amex. But I got a business credit card. They had some deal where if I used it, I got hundreds of dollars. Those deals are great. And so I took that deal, and I'm still using their credit card. and I get 2% cash back on all my purchases. And I do purchase quite a bit of things as a business using my credit card. I also make cash purchases, which I'll need to talk about separately. But for the business expenses, a lot of them are on that credit card. And so when I connect that into TurboTax and say, hey, these are my business expenses, boom, it plugs it in. And I think I spent like 60 grand or whatever, like on that one credit card this past year. So, it's like if my revenue was 100 grand and I spent 60 grand, then boom, already, 60 grand is written off. Because the way, if you don't know, taxes work is you only have to pay tax on your net earnings. So you're able to deduct for your business anything you spent on your business. So all the product you buy, there's some portion of meals that you're allowed to write off. There's some portion of other expenses like utilities. Like I pay utilities on my business, not all utilities. I pay internet. Well, I used to, don't anymore. But I used to pay internet on my business credit card. And that is a business write-off, as I use my internet for my business. And so anyways, it gets a little tricky. Once again, I'm not the expert. I'm just telling you what I've done. And if you're like, hey, Nick, that's illegal or that's not compliant or whatever, let me know in the comments, because I would love to know. And I'm making myself vulnerable by putting this out on YouTube. And I'd love to get something for that, aka your feedback about how silly I am. But what I've done is I've got this credit card, business expenses, boom, plug that in. That's great. I have other expenses. The other big expense I have is buying collections with cash. And I didn't do as good of a job last year as I needed to, well, as I should have. I did a just fine job. I was able to write off all my business income. I had a lot of expenses that are outside of that Amex. I think I had basically like 90 grand of credit card spend on things like collector booster boxes and other inventory that I have in closets and stuff around. And so I had like a remaining 10 grand I needed that I was pretty confident I had spent. And when I did some digging, I realized, yes, I bought over 10 grand's worth of collections. And so when you buy stuff with cash, you need to write it down. You need to have a record somewhere of, hey, I bought this collection on this day with this much money. And that's going to be critical for your write-offs at the end of the year for writing stuff off your business. And so that's how last year I paid no taxes on any of my business stuff, is I spent everything I made and more. But I ended the year with a ton of inventory. And this year, I'm not planning on doing the same thing. This year, I do want to sell a lot of the stuff that I have. I mentioned in my last video that if the Final Fantasy Collector Booster Box hits 2 grand, I'm planning on selling mine. And I didn't buy those this year. I don't have anything to deduct. So if I have 5 of those things and I sell them for 2 grand each, boom, that's 10 grand that is fully taxable. And so what I didn't do last year, because I knew that I was spending more than I was making, was saving money for taxes. Now, if you're not going to spend more money than you make on business things, then you need to save money for taxes. And the rule of thumb that I've heard from other people is save about a third. About a third of everything you make, just stick it in a bank account and have that ready to go for taxes. And so that is what I am doing. This year, I have 2 business bank accounts, and one of them I'm going to use actively for business stuff, and then the other one I'm going to have is the savings account, where when I sell things like those Final Fantasy Collector Booster Boxes, hypothetically, or other products, I'm going to put aside the money that I will need hypothetically next year for taxes. Now, will I pay all that money in taxes? Hopefully not. Maybe there'll be other opportunities that I'll sink money into before the end of the year, and those will be write-offs, and I won't pay any money in taxes. But to be safe, I'm going to be saving that money. And so that is the second situation where you're not going to spend everything you make. If you want to make money and net positive with your business, then you need to set aside money to be ready to pay taxes, because anything you don't write off is going to be fully taxable, and that's going to get taxed at that like whatever percent. I guess depending on how much you make. I don't really understand, but I think saving a third of my profits, I'll be in a decent place. So that is what I do. It's essentially, for me, it's as simple as make an LLC, have a business bank account, have a business credit card, and anything you do with cash, make sure you write down what you did, how much it was, that kind of thing. Well, we got a minute. Let me share something cool, which is this collection I bought. And I was showing off a little bit of this yesterday, but I have even more cool stuff. This one's the non-foil, these nesting dove hawks. Why am I showing this off? I realized, like, if you want a harmonized crescendo fractured foil at 90% of market, reach out. And this kind of stuff too. Maybe I'll link my TCG player store, but if there's stuff you want and you just want to email me, and what I'll do is through PayPal goods and services, I'll sell you 90% of market, as much stuff as you like through PayPal goods and services. I think it'll be kind of like a minimum price of $30 or something like that, so I can justify a shipping label. But all through PayPal goods and services, you're protected. It'll all be, paid shipping label tracking. And just anything. If I'm able to cut out the middleman, a TCG player, I'm able to get you a discount. I'm able to make more money. So win-win. Anyways, yeah, so check it out. Good times, y'all. Thanks for watching. We'll see you.